The discovery happened on a Tuesday morning, Galactic Standard Time. Dr. Zekthari adjusted her optical sensors and stared at the small blue planet rotating slowly on her screen. She had found thousands of worlds during her career as the Galactic Council's lead xenobiologist, but this one made her pause. Life signs were everywhere. Not just simple bacteria or primitive plants, but complex organisms moving across the surface. Cities dotted the land masses like scattered gems. Lights twinkled on the dark side of the planet as it turned. Radio waves poured from the world in a constant stream of chatter. Another developing species, Zekthari muttered to herself. She pulled up the standard classification system on her computer. The beings on this planet called themselves humans, and they lived on a world they named Earth. She ran the basic tests. Could they travel faster than light? No. Did they have energy shields? No. Could they manipulate gravity? No. Did they have weapons that could threaten council ships? Not even close. Zekthari typed her report quickly. Species, human. Planet, Earth. Classification, Class 7 developing. Technology level, primitive chemical propulsion. Threat assessment, 0. Recommendation, standard reservation protocol. She sent the report to the council chambers and forgot about Earth completely. 3 weeks later, the council met to discuss the humans. 12 different alien species sat around the great circular table, each representing their homeworlds and colonies. They had ruled the galaxy for over 10,000 years. They brought peace to war-torn systems. They shared technology with grateful younger species. They protected developing worlds from the dangers of space. Council leader Morgeth read Zekthari's report aloud. The humans appear to be a typical developing species. They show promise but need guidance. I recommend we offer them protected status. The other council members nodded. They had done this hundreds of times before. Young species were always the same. They were violent, crude, and dangerous to themselves. The council would protect them, teach them slowly, and in a few thousand years, maybe they could join galactic society. Send the standard message, Morgeth decided. Let them know they are now under council protection. The message probe launched from the council's nearest station. It was a beautiful thing, built from crystalline materials that sparkled in space. The probe carried a simple message in the human language called English. Greetings, people of Earth. You have been discovered by the Galactic Council. We are pleased to inform you that your world is now a protected reservation. For your own safety, you are forbidden from leaving your solar system. Council representatives will visit periodically to provide guidance. Do not be afraid. You are now safe under our protection. The probe entered Earth's solar system and began broadcasting the message on all frequencies. It waited for a response. The response came faster than expected. Captain Sarah Chen sat in the command center of the International Space Defense Network. Red lights flashed across every screen in the room. Radar operators shouted updates. Communication officers tried to reach the unknown object that had appeared near Mars. It's broadcasting something, called out Lieutenant Morrison from his station. Some kind of message in English. Chen listened to the recording. Her face grew darker with each word. Reservation, she said. Protected status? Forbidden from leaving our solar system? She looked around the room at her team. They had all heard the message. They all understood what it meant. So let me get this straight, Chen said slowly. Some aliens show up in our solar system and tell us we're basically prisoners on our own planet. And they think we should be grateful for it. She picked up the red phone that connected her directly to every world leader. This is Captain Chen at Space Defense. We have a situation. 6 hours later, every space-capable nation on Earth had scrambled their best ships. The Americans launched 3 military shuttles. The Russians sent 2 heavy cargo vessels loaded with missiles. The Chinese deployed their newest orbital fighters. The Europeans, Japanese, and Indians each contributed ships. It was not an impressive fleet by galactic standards. The ships were crude, slow, and carried weapons that would barely scratch a council vessel's hull, but it was everything Earth had. Chen studied the alien probe through her telescope. It looked expensive. It also looked completely undefended. All ships, she broadcast on the secure channel. This is Captain Chen. Our orders are simple. That probe delivered a message telling us we're prisoners. I don't know about you, but I've never been good at following orders from uninvited guests. The attack came from 12 different directions. Earth's ships moved in patterns that made no sense to anyone watching. They accelerated toward the probe, then suddenly changed course. They fired missiles that seemed to miss, then turned out to be exactly on target. The probe's automated systems tried to respond. It had basic defensive measures designed to ward off asteroids and space debris, but it had never been built to fight against intelligent opponents. The first missile hit the probe's communication array. The second destroyed its main sensor cluster. The third and fourth missiles arrived at the same time, turning the beautiful crystalline structure into glittering fragments. Chen watched the explosion through her telescope. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers. "Send a message to whoever's listening," she ordered. "Tell them we received their transmission. Tell them we declined their generous offer. And tell them if they want to talk, they can ask nicely next time." Back at the council station, alarms screamed across the monitoring center. Technician Veltash stared at his screen in confusion. The probe's signal had simply vanished. "Equipment failure?" asked his supervisor. "I don't think so," Veltash replied. "The last transmission showed multiple objects approaching, then nothing." The supervisor frowned. "Multiple objects? Asteroids?" "No, sir. They were moving under power. Controlled trajectories." A long silence filled the room. "Are you telling me," the supervisor said slowly, "that a Class 7 species just destroyed a council probe?" Veltash checked his readings again. "Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm telling you." News of the incident reached the council chambers within hours. Dr. Zekthari was called in to explain her assessment. "You said they were harmless," Council Leader Morgeth accused. "They are," Zekthari insisted. "Their technology is primitive. Their weapons are crude. They shouldn't have been able to damage our probe. And yet they did." Zekthari looked at the destruction reports. The humans had used simple chemical rockets and basic explosive warheads. Nothing fancy, nothing advanced, just crude, direct violence applied with surprising coordination. "It was probably luck," she said finally. "A primitive response born from fear. They'll calm down once they understand what we're offering them." Morgeth leaned back in his chair. In 10,000 years, no species had ever destroyed a council probe. Most developing worlds were grateful for council protection. They welcomed the safety and guidance. "Update their file," he ordered. "Change the threat assessment from 0 to minimal, and prepare a follow-up mission, a bigger ship this time." Zekthari nodded and left the chamber. But as she walked back to her laboratory, she couldn't shake a strange feeling. Something about the human response bothered her. It wasn't random or fearful. It had been organized, coordinated, and decisive. Most species took months or years to respond to first contact. The humans had acted in hours. She pulled up Earth's file and stared at the planet rotating on her screen. Maybe she had missed something in her initial assessment. Maybe these humans were more than they seemed. But that was impossible. The tests didn't lie. The humans were primitive, limited to their single star system, barely capable of spaceflight. What could they possibly do against the might of the Galactic Council? 3 years had passed since the probe incident. Captain Velmoth of the Council ship Harmony of Spheres reviewed his mission files as his vessel approached the Sol system. The humans had destroyed Council property, which was unacceptable. His job was to remind them who was in charge. The Harmony of Spheres was impressive. Nearly 2 kilometers long, it carried enough firepower to level a planet's surface. Its shields could stop asteroid impacts. Its sensors could detect a single ship from halfway across a solar system. "Beginning system scan," reported Navigator. Christel from her station. Velmoth expected to see the same primitive world they had found 3 years ago. A few crude space stations, maybe some basic satellites. The humans would have learned their lesson by now. Instead, his screen filled with contacts. "Sir," Christel said, her voice uncertain. "I'm reading multiple structures throughout the system." Velmoth looked at the display. Red dots marked human installations everywhere. Orbital stations around Earth, mining platforms in the asteroid belt. Habitats near Jupiter's moons. Construction yards around Saturn. How many installations? He asked. Over 300 confirmed structures, sir. Possibly more. They're using some kind of stealth technology I can't penetrate. Velmoth frowned. 3 years was not enough time for such expansion. The humans should barely have recovered from losing their probe. Take us closer to Earth, he ordered. Let's see what they've been up to. As the harmony of spheres moved deeper into the system, the scope of human activity became clear. The asteroid belt had been transformed into a massive industrial complex. Huge mining ships tore chunks from asteroids while refineries processed raw materials. Construction yards built new ships using designs that looked nothing like the crude vessels from 3 years ago. Sir, called Communications Officer Texnor, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. Put it through. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was a woman with short gray hair and tired eyes. She wore some kind of military uniform. This is Admiral Martinez of Earth Defense Command, she said. You're entering restricted space. State your business or leave immediately. Velmoth laughed. The human was trying to give orders to a council ship. I am Captain Velmoth of the Galactic Council, he replied. This system is under council protection. You will stand down your forces and prepare for inspection. Admiral Martinez smiled. It was not a friendly expression. Captain, you have 30 seconds to change course. After that, we'll consider you a hostile threat. Threat? Velmoth couldn't believe what he was hearing. We are the Galactic Council. We have protected this galaxy for 10,000 years. You will show proper respect. 20 seconds, Martinez said calmly. Velmoth decided to teach the humans a lesson. He turned to his weapons officer. Target their communication satellites. Disable them with precision strikes. Show them what real technology can do. Yes, sir. The harmony of spheres locked onto 6 human satellites orbiting Earth. The ship's energy weapons charged up. This would be easy. The crude human satellites couldn't possibly have defenses against Council technology. The weapons fired. 6 beams of concentrated energy lanced out toward the satellites and missed. What happened? Velmoth demanded. Sir, the targets moved. They dodged our weapons fire. That's impossible. Satellites don't move like that, but they did. The human satellites had somehow detected the incoming energy beams and moved out of the way. Now they were turning toward the harmony of spheres. Sir, the weapons officer said, his voice rising. The satellites are targeting us. Ridiculous. What could they possibly? The first beam hit the harmony of spheres directly in the center. Alarms screamed across the bridge. The ship's shields flared and held, but barely. Antimatter weapons, reported the science officer. Coherent antimatter beams. How do they have antimatter weapons? The second and third beams followed quickly. The ship's shields began to fail. All power to shields, Velmoth ordered. Return fire. But the human satellites were already moving again. They spread out in impossible patterns, dodging every shot while continuing their own attack. More beams struck the council ship. Something exploded in the engineering section. Sir, we're losing power, called the engineer. Hull breach on deck 7. Retreat, Velmoth ordered. Get us out of range. The harmony of spheres turned and accelerated away from Earth. But as it moved, more human ships appeared. They came from the asteroid belt, from the outer planets, from hidden positions throughout the system. These were not the crude chemical rockets from 3 years ago. These ships moved with impossible speed and grace. They fired weapons that shouldn't exist, gravitational pulse cannons that twisted space itself, particle beams that cut through council armor like paper. Sir, we have incoming, reported the navigator. 12 human vessels approaching fast. Our shields are down to 30%, added the engineer. Velmoth made a decision that would haunt him for years. Prepare to jump to hyperspace. Emergency departure. Sir, we haven't completed our mission. Our mission just became survival. But before the harmony of spheres could jump away, something incredible happened. One of the human ships moved alongside and extended a docking tube. They're trying to board us, the security chief reported. All hands to repel boarders, Velmoth ordered. The battle inside the ship was brief but shocking. The humans moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency. They used weapons that fired solid projectiles instead of energy beams. They wore heavy armor that absorbed Council stun weapons, and they fought with a brutal directness that overwhelmed the Council's security forces. Within 10 minutes, 3 Council crew members had been captured. The humans retreated to their ship as quickly as they had come. Jump to hyperspace, Velmoth ordered. Now. The harmony of spheres vanished from Earth's solar system, leaving behind 3 crew members and all of Velmoth's confidence. In the debriefing room 3 days later, Velmoth faced a panel of council leaders. He had never failed a mission before. He had never retreated from primitive aliens. "Let me understand this correctly," said Council Leader Morgoth. "A single human star system defeated a Council heavy cruiser. They had weapons we've never seen before," Velmoth protested. "Antimatter beams. Gravitational weapons. Technology that should have taken them centuries to develop. And how do you think they acquired this technology?" "I don't know, sir. Maybe they found artifacts from an ancient civilization. Maybe another species gave them advanced weapons." Dr. Zekthari spoke up from her seat at the table. "I've analyzed the sensor data from your encounter. The human technology isn't based on any known galactic designs. It's completely original." Silence filled the room. "Original?" Morgoth asked. "They didn't copy our technology or anyone else's. They invented their own solutions. Their antimatter containment systems work on completely different principles than ours. Their gravity weapons use methods we've never seen before." Velmoth shook his head. "That's impossible. No species develops that fast. It violates every law of technological progression." "Apparently," Zekthari said quietly, "humans don't follow our laws." Morgoth leaned forward in his chair. "What are you saying, Doctor?" "I'm saying we may have seriously underestimated this species. They're not following normal development patterns. They're not behaving like any other species we've encountered." 3 years, Morgoth said. "In 3 years they went from chemical rockets to antimatter weapons." "Yes, sir." Another long silence. "What about our captured crew members?" Velmoth asked. "No word yet," Morgoth replied. "We're attempting to negotiate their return." "And if the humans refuse?" Morgoth's expression grew hard. "Then we'll have to consider other options." As the meeting ended, Velmoth walked to the observation deck of the council station. He stared out at the stars and tried to understand what had happened. The humans had beaten him, not through superior numbers or better training, but through technology that shouldn't exist. How did a primitive species develop antimatter weapons in 3 years? How did they build hundreds of installations throughout their system? How did they coordinate such a perfect defense? And most importantly, what else were they capable of? Somewhere in the back of his mind, a disturbing thought began to form. Maybe the humans weren't a primitive species at all. Maybe they were something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something the Galactic Council wasn't prepared to handle. Agent Creasel had been trained for infiltration missions across the galaxy. She could change her appearance to match dozens of alien species. She spoke 47 languages fluently. She had successfully gathered intelligence on hostile civilizations for over 30 years. But this mission felt different. "Your target is the human colony on Europa," her handler had explained. "Intelligence suggests they're hiding stolen council technology there. Find out how they acquired our antimatter and gravity manipulation systems." Creasel adjusted her biomask as her stealth ship approached Jupiter's moon. The device would make her appear human to casual observation. It wouldn't fool detailed medical scans, but it should be enough to blend in. The colony on Europa was bigger than expected. Massive domes covered the surface, protecting underground cities from radiation. Ships came and went constantly, carrying materials and personnel. It looked like a major industrial center. She landed at the public spaceport and walked through the immigration checkpoint. The human guards barely glanced at her forged identification papers. "Welcome to Europa Station," one of them said with a smile. "First time visiting?" "Yes," Creasel replied in carefully practiced English. "I'm here on business. You'll love it here. The ice skating is amazing. Ice skating." Creasel filed that away as another piece of strange human behavior to investigate later. She found a hotel near the spaceport and spent the first few days observing. The humans seemed remarkably casual about security. There were guards, but they were friendly rather than suspicious. People moved freely between districts. Visitors like herself could access most public areas without restriction. It was nothing like the tight security she expected around stolen alien technology. On her 4th day, Creasel managed to get a job at one of the research facilities. Her cover story was simple. She was a materials scientist from Earth looking for work. The hiring manager barely checked her credentials. "We can always use more hands," Dr. Janet Foster said as she led Creasel through the facility. "We're working on some exciting projects here." The research center was enormous. Hundreds of humans worked in laboratories and workshops. They were building devices that Kreesal recognized as antimatter containment units, the same technology that had nearly destroyed Captain Velmoth's ship. But something was wrong. The containment units didn't look like Council technology. They used different materials, different energy patterns, different control systems. Kreesal had studied Council antimatter systems for years. These devices were completely alien to her. "How do your containment fields work?" she asked Dr. Foster. "Magnetic bottle configuration," Foster replied cheerfully. "We use controlled fusion reactors to generate the magnetic fields. Much safer than the old chemical containment methods." Kreesal blinked. Magnetic bottles. She had never heard of such a thing. Council antimatter systems used quantum crystalline matrices stabilized by subspace resonance. The human approach was completely different. "Where did you learn about magnetic bottle containment?" she asked carefully. "Oh, that was Dr. Patterson's breakthrough. She figured it out about 2 years ago. Amazing work, really." She looked at the problem from a completely new angle. "What problem?" "Well, we knew antimatter existed from your probe's energy signature, but we had no idea how to contain it safely. The probe wreckage didn't give us much to work with, just fragments and radiation traces." Kreesal felt a chill run down her spine. "You reverse-engineered antimatter containment from probe fragments?" "Not exactly reverse-engineered," Foster said. "More like inspired by. We knew it was possible because your people had done it. So we started from basic physics and worked our way up." They walked past another laboratory where humans were assembling gravity manipulation devices. Again, Kreesal saw equipment that bore no resemblance to Council technology. "And the gravity weapons?" she asked. "Quantum entanglement exploitation," Foster explained. Dr. Kim's team discovered that by entangling particles at the quantum level, we could create localized gravitational effects. Completely different from antimatter, but just as effective. "How long did it take to develop this?" "About 18 months from initial concept to working prototype. Would have been faster, but we had to invent new manufacturing processes too." 18 months. The Council had taken 3,000 years to develop gravity manipulation technology. Kreesal spent weeks at the facility, documenting everything she saw. The more she learned, the more confused she became. The humans weren't using stolen Council technology. They had invented completely original solutions to the same problems, and they were doing it impossibly fast. She watched a team of engineers tackle the problem of faster-than-light communication. The Council used subspace resonance, carefully tuned energy patterns that could travel through higher dimensions. It was elegant technology that had taken millennia to perfect. The human approach was characteristically crude and effective. They used quantum entanglement to link particles across vast distances. When they changed the state of one particle, its entangled partner changed instantly, regardless of distance. "The physics says it should be impossible," explained Dr. Sarah Chen, the project leader. "Information isn't supposed to travel faster than light. But we're not sending information through space. We're using the quantum connection that already exists." "How did you think of this approach?" Kreesal asked. "Honestly, we were just brainstorming solutions. Someone mentioned quantum entanglement, and we wondered if we could use it for communication. Took us about 6 months to figure out the practical details." 6 months. The Council's subspace communication technology had taken 8,000 years to develop. Kreesal began to understand something that terrified her. The humans weren't good at copying alien technology. They were good at solving problems. Any problem. In ways that no one else had ever considered. She saw it everywhere in the facility. A material science team had developed self-repairing hull plating by studying how human bones healed fractures. A computer team had created adaptive artificial intelligence by mimicking how human children learned language. A weapons team had built energy shields by studying how certain fish generated electrical fields. The humans looked at problems differently than any species she had ever encountered. Where other civilizations would study and copy successful solutions, humans asked a different question. What are we trying to accomplish, and what's another way to do it? The results were startling. Human technology didn't follow standard patterns. It was unpredictable, chaotic, and often seemed to violate basic principles. But it worked. After 2 months of observation, Kreesal filed her report. "The humans are not using stolen Council technology," she wrote. "They have developed original solutions that achieve similar results through completely different methods. Their technological advancement appears to be limited only by their imagination and available resources. She paused, then added a personal note that would change everything. This species represents a fundamental challenge to our understanding of technological development. They do not follow established patterns. They do not respect traditional limitations. They approach every problem as if it has never been solved before, then invent solutions that we would never consider. Most concerning of all, they appear to be accelerating. Each breakthrough leads to faster development of the next breakthrough. If this trend continues, they may surpass Council technology levels within a decade. Recommendation: immediate diplomatic contact. These humans are not a primitive species we can guide and control. They are a technological powerhouse that we need to understand before they become too advanced to contain. She sent the report through quantum channels and continued her work at the Europa facility. But now she was no longer just observing. She was trying to understand how the human mind worked. What she discovered kept her awake at night. Humans didn't just solve problems. They solved problems they didn't even know they had. They invented solutions to questions no one had asked yet. They built tools to make better tools to solve problems that might exist in the future. And they did it all with a casual confidence that suggested they had always expected to succeed. Dr. Foster invited her to a planning meeting where the facility's department heads discussed future projects. Creasel listened as they casually talked about reshaping matter at the molecular level, creating artificial life forms, and building machines that could think faster than biological brains. "Are these realistic goals?" she asked. "Oh, sure," Foster replied. "We've already made progress on all of them. Should have working prototypes within a few years." A few years? Projects that would challenge the greatest council scientists for centuries. Creasel realized she was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. She was watching a species bootstrap itself from chemical rockets to technologies that surpassed anything the Council had achieved, and they were just getting started. The most terrifying part was their attitude. They didn't see their rapid advancement as miraculous or impossible. To them, it was just another day at work, just another set of problems to solve. As she prepared her final report, Creasel wondered what would happen when these humans decided to leave their solar system. What would they do when they encountered other species? What would they do if someone tried to stop them? The Galactic Council War Fleet assembled at Kepler Station, the largest military facility in known space. 50 ships formed up in perfect formation, dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, and support vessels that represented 10,000 years of military advancement. Admiral Thexgull stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion and reviewed the fleet roster. Each ship was a masterpiece of Council engineering. Their crews had trained for decades. Their weapons could shatter planets. Their shields could withstand Nova-level energy bursts. This was more firepower than had ever been assembled in galactic history. "All ships report ready, Admiral," announced Commander Velkas from the communications station. Thexgull nodded. The Council had been patient with the humans. They had tried diplomacy, warnings, and demonstrations of power. Nothing had worked. The humans continued to expand, continued to develop dangerous technologies, continued to ignore Council authority. The time for patience was over. "The mission is simple," Thexgull broadcast to the fleet. "We will disable human space infrastructure and relocate the species to a proper reservation world. Minimal casualties, maximum effectiveness. The humans will learn to respect Council authority." The fleet jumped to hyperspace and headed for Earth. Back in the Sol system, Admiral Martinez stood in the command center of Earth Defense Command. Massive screens showed the positions of every human ship and station throughout the system. Red warning lights flashed as long-range sensors detected the approaching Council fleet. "How many ships?" she asked. 50 confirmed contacts, reported Lieutenant Colonel Park from the sensor station. "They're big. Really big. Time to arrival?" 16 hours at current speed, Martinez nodded. Earth had been preparing for this moment for 5 years. Every simulation, every war game, every strategic planning session had focused on one question. How do you fight an enemy with superior technology and overwhelming numbers? The answer they had developed was simple. You don't fight them the way they expect to be fought. "Send the message to all stations," Martinez ordered. Operation Chaos Storm is now active. Throughout the solar system, human installations received the signal. But instead of panicking or preparing for siege warfare, they began one of the most audacious military maneuvers in history. The asteroid belt miners loaded their cargo holds with metal fragments and debris. The research stations near Jupiter armed their experimental weapons. The orbital factories around Earth released thousands of small automated drones. The defensive platforms throughout the system powered up weapons that shouldn't have existed. Most importantly, every human ship in the system began moving toward Earth. "Admiral," reported Captain Sarah Chen from her flagship Defiance, "all fleet elements are in position. Remember the plan," Martinez broadcast to the assembled human forces. "We're not trying to outfight them. We're trying to outthink them." When the Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, Admiral Thexagul expected to see the same basic defensive formation that every species used. Ships arranged in defensive lines, weapons platforms guarding key installations, military vessels protecting civilian targets. Instead, he saw chaos. Human ships were scattered everywhere in seemingly random patterns. Some were accelerating toward the Council fleet. Others were heading away at maximum speed. A few were actually crashing into each other in what looked like accidents. "What are they doing?" asked Commander Velkus. "I have no idea," Thexagul admitted. "Begin the attack. Target their largest ships first." The Council fleet moved forward in textbook formation, their targeting computers locked onto human vessels, their weapons charged up for devastating coordinated strikes. The humans responded by doing exactly what no military commander would ever expect. They rammed the Council ship's Defiance accelerated directly toward the flagship Eternal Dominion at 90% of light speed. Its captain made no attempt to dodge incoming fire. She simply aimed her ship like a bullet and fired her engines. "They're going to ram us," Velkus reported in disbelief. "Impossible," Thexagul replied. "No commander would sacrifice their ship in a frontal attack." But Captain Chen wasn't sacrificing her ship. At the last second, Defiance released dozens of drones that continued on the collision course, while the ship itself veered away. The drones struck Eternal Dominion's shields and exploded with the force of nuclear weapons. The shields held, but barely. And while the flagship's defensive systems dealt with the drones, two other human ships attacked from different angles. This pattern repeated throughout the battle zone. Human commanders used their own ships as weapons, launching them at Council vessels like missiles. They sacrificed smaller ships to create openings for larger ships. They crashed damaged vessels into enemy formations without hesitation. "Sir, the humans are using suicide tactics," reported the tactical officer. "No," Thexagul said, studying the battle more carefully. "They're using their ships as expendable weapons platforms. It was brilliant and horrifying. The humans treated their ships like ammunition. They would charge a Council vessel, release drones or missiles at point-blank range, then escape if possible. If escape wasn't possible, they would ram the target directly. But the worst part was how they coordinated these attacks. Council military doctrine was based on careful planning and coordinated movements. Commanders made decisions through committee consultation and computer analysis. Human commanders acted instantly. They saw opportunities and took them without waiting for approval. They changed tactics in real time based on developing situations. They made decisions that violated every principle of military science, and it was working. The Council fleet's superior firepower meant nothing when they couldn't predict where the next attack would come from. Their advanced targeting systems couldn't lock onto ships that changed course every few seconds. Their coordinated battle plans fell apart when facing opponents who seemed to make random decisions. "Sir, we've lost 6 ships," Velkus reported. "The humans are using some kind of new weapon." Thexagul looked at the tactical display. Human mining ships from the asteroid belt were launching clouds of metal fragments at near light speed. The fragments struck Council ships like shotgun blasts, overwhelming their point defense systems. Those aren't weapons, he realized. They're mining tools. The humans had turned their industrial equipment into improvised weapons. Ore processors became particle beam cannons. Construction drones became guided missiles. Even their communication satellites had been modified to emit focused energy bursts. "Sir, request permission to withdraw," called Captain Morleth from one of the heavy cruisers. "My ship has lost shields and main weapons. The humans are using tactics we've never encountered." Thexagul watched another Council ship disappear in a flash of light as 3 human vessels rammed it simultaneously. The harmony of spheres spun out of control after being struck by a debris cloud that had somehow been launched from Jupiter orbit. This wasn't a battle. It was chaos with weapons. All ships begin fighting withdrawal, he ordered. Fall back to jump distance, but the humans weren't finished. As the Council fleet tried to retreat, they found themselves facing a new nightmare. Human ships that had been destroyed earlier suddenly reactivated. The humans had been faking ship deaths, playing dead until the Council fleet passed by, then attacking from behind. "Admiral, we're surrounded," Velkus reported. It was true. Somehow, during the confused fighting, the human ships had positioned themselves in a sphere around the Council fleet. Every direction led toward enemy weapons. "How is this possible?" Thexgul demanded. "We outnumber them 3-1. Sir, I think they planned this from the beginning," the tactical officer said quietly. "Everything they did, the ramming attacks, the suicide runs, the scattered formations, it was all designed to get us into this position." Thexgul stared at the tactical display. The human fleet hadn't been fighting chaotically. They had been herding the Council ships into a trap. Every seemingly random maneuver had been part of a larger strategy. "How do we get out of this?" Velkus asked. Before Thexgul could answer, the human fleet attacked again. But this time it was different. Instead of individual ship attacks, they moved as a coordinated whole, hundreds of vessels firing simultaneously from all directions. The Council fleet's remaining shields collapsed under the overwhelming assault. Ship after ship went dark. The Eternal Dominion itself shuddered under multiple impacts. "Sir, we have massive hull breaches," reported the engineering officer. "We're losing atmosphere on 12 decks. Emergency jump to hyperspace," Thexgul ordered. "All ships that can, follow us out." The surviving Council ships vanished from the battlefield, leaving behind 23 destroyed vessels and their dead crews. In the aftermath, Admiral Martinez stood in her command center and surveyed the damage reports. Earth had lost 38 ships and over 2,000 personnel, but they had defeated the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "How many Council ships did we destroy?" she asked. 23 confirmed kills, Park reported. "The rest fled," Martinez nodded. The victory had come at a terrible cost, but it had proven something important. The Galactic Council could be beaten. Their superior technology and overwhelming numbers meant nothing against superior tactics and the willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called for the first time in 3,000 years. Representatives from all 12 member species gathered in the Great Chamber, their faces showing fear, confusion, and anger. Council leader Morgeth stood at the center of the circle, holding the battle reports from Admiral Thexgul's failed mission. The numbers were devastating. 23 ships destroyed, hundreds of crew members dead. The most powerful fleet in galactic history had been defeated by a species that shouldn't have been able to fight back. "How is this possible?" demanded Representative Kexthor of the Vegan Empire. "Our intelligence said the humans were primitive. Our weapons should have overwhelmed them easily." "Our weapons did overwhelm them," replied Representative Zolmar from the Centauri Alliance. "We destroyed dozens of their ships, but they kept fighting anyway." "They used suicide tactics," said Representative Nexvol of the Andromedan Confederation. "No civilized species fights that way." Dr. Zekthari spoke from her position at the Research Council table. "I've been analyzing the battle data for 3 weeks. The human tactics weren't suicidal. They were calculated. Every ship that was lost served a strategic purpose." "Explain," Morgeth ordered. "The humans used their ships as multi-purpose weapons. Each vessel could serve as a missile, a weapons platform, a sensor decoy, or a shield for other ships. They maximized the combat value of every asset." "That's insane," Kexthor protested. "Ships are valuable. Crews are valuable. You don't throw them away in battle." "The humans don't see it as throwing them away," Zekthari continued. "They see it as using every resource to achieve victory. Their commanders made tactical decisions in real time without waiting for approval or consensus." Uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. The Council had always prided itself on careful deliberation and collective decision-making. The idea of individual commanders making instant choices violated their most basic principles. "What about the captured crew members?" asked Representative Velnix from the Sirius Collective. "Are they still alive?" "Yes," Morgeth replied. "We received a message from Earth yesterday. The humans are willing to discuss their return." "Discuss?" Nexaval's tentacles writhed in agitation. "They should return our people immediately. This is a violation of all civilized conduct." "Under what authority?" asked a new voice. Everyone turned toward the chamber's main screen, where Admiral Martinez appeared via quantum communication link. Beside her stood the 3 captured council crew members, apparently unharmed. "Admiral Martinez," Morgeth said formally, "you requested this communication. State your terms for returning our personnel." "No terms," Martinez replied. "Your people are free to leave whenever they want. But first, they have something to tell you." She stepped aside, and Commander Telwis of the captured survey team moved forward. His expression was troubled. "Council Leader Morgeth," he began hesitantly, "I must report that our assumptions about the human species were incorrect." "How so?" "They are not primitive. They are not violent barbarians. They are not a threat to galactic peace." Telwis paused. "They are something we have never encountered before." "Explain your meaning." Telwis looked back at Admiral Martinez, who nodded encouragingly. "The humans don't just solve problems," he said. "They solve problems that don't exist yet. They invent solutions before they understand the questions, and they do it all with a speed that defies every law of technological development." "That's impossible." "I've seen it myself," Telwis continued. "In the 3 years I've been here, they've developed faster than light travel, artificial gravity, and matter transmission. Not by copying our technology, but by inventing completely original methods." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Faster than light travel had taken the Council 8,000 years to develop. Artificial gravity had required 5,000 years of research. Matter transmission was still theoretical. "How?" Morgeth demanded. Commander Veltus, another captured crew member, stepped forward. "They think differently than any species we've encountered. When they see a problem, they don't ask, 'How do others solve this?' They ask, 'What are we trying to accomplish, and what's the most direct way to do it?' Give me an example. Faster than light travel. We use hyperspace generators that fold space-time through higher dimensions." The humans looked at the same problem and asked, "What if space isn't really solid?" "They developed quantum tunneling drives that punch holes through reality itself. That violates the laws of physics. Their physics apparently has different laws," said the 3rd captured crew member. Science Officer Krenal. "They've rewritten fundamental equations based on their observations. Their version of reality works just as well as ours, but allows for possibilities we never considered." Admiral Martinez spoke again from the screen. "Your people have been our guests for 3 years. They've observed our society, studied our technology, and participated in our research projects. They understand what we're capable of." "And what are you capable of?" Morgeth asked quietly. "Anything we decide to accomplish," Martinez replied simply. "There are no problems we can't solve. There are no limitations we can't overcome. There are no barriers we can't break through." "That sounds like a threat." "It's not a threat. It's a fact. We didn't choose to be your enemies. You made that choice when you tried to imprison us in our own solar system." Representative Kexthor stood up angrily. "You destroyed our ships. You killed our people." "You attacked us first," Martinez replied calmly. "You came to our home with weapons and told us we were prisoners. What did you expect us to do? Submit to proper authority. We don't submit to anyone. That's not how humans work." Morgeth raised his hand for silence. "What do you want from us, Admiral?" "Nothing," Martinez said. "We want you to leave us alone. We want to explore the galaxy in peace. We want to meet other species and learn from them. We don't want to conquer anyone or rule anyone. But if we try to stop you," Martinez's expression hardened, "then you'll discover what happens when humans really get angry. The battle you just lost, that was us being polite." Another uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. Commander Telwis spoke again. "Council Leader, there's something else you need to understand. The humans aren't just technologically advanced. They're getting smarter." "What do you mean?" "Their artificial intelligence research has led to cognitive enhancement technology. They're upgrading their own minds, making themselves more intelligent, more creative, more capable of solving complex problems." "That's dangerous," Representative Nexval protested. "Artificial enhancement of intelligence leads to madness." "Not for humans," Telwis replied. "They're using the same approach they apply to everything else. Instead of following established methods, they're inventing new ways to think." Dr. Zekathari leaned forward in her seat. "What are the implications?" "In 10 years, they'll be smarter than our greatest scientists. In 50 years, they may be smarter than all of us combined. And they'll keep improving, keep advancing, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible." The chamber fell completely silent. The magnitude of what they faced was becoming clear. This wasn't just a military defeat. This was the emergence of a species that could reshape the galaxy. What do you recommend? Morgeth asked his captured crew members. Peace, Telwas said immediately. Whatever it takes, we need to make peace with the humans. Because if we don't, they'll eventually become so advanced that we'll be completely irrelevant. You're suggesting we surrender to a primitive species? I'm suggesting we partner with the most promising species in galactic history, Telwas replied. The humans could solve problems that have challenged us for millennia. They could help us advance beyond our current limitations. Admiral Martinez spoke from the screen. We're willing to discuss cooperation, but it has to be as equals. No more talk of reservations or protection. No more attempts to control our development. And if we refuse? Asked Representative Kexthor. Then in a few years you'll be having this same conversation with humans who are 10 times smarter and 100 times more capable than we are today. And they might not be as patient as we've been. The implied threat hung in the air like a sword. Morgeth looked around the chamber at his fellow council members. Fear, uncertainty, and resignation showed on their faces. For 10,000 years they had been the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Now they faced a species that could surpass them within decades. What are your terms for peace? He asked finally. Simple, Martinez replied. Full diplomatic recognition, free travel throughout council space, access to galactic trade networks, and most importantly, no interference in our internal affairs. In exchange for what? Peaceful coexistence, shared scientific research, and our promise that we'll never use our capabilities to threaten council worlds. It was a generous offer, and everyone in the chamber knew it. The humans could have demanded much more. I call for a vote, Morgeth announced. All in favor of accepting the human terms? 11 hands rose slowly. Only Representative Kexthor abstained. It is decided, Morgeth said formally. The Galactic Council extends full membership to the human species. Admiral Martinez smiled on the screen. Welcome to the future, she said. We think you're going to like what we build together.